Kirk trying to win it to Thielen, caught at the 5!
I got 3 words for you. You like that?
No!
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Skull Network. My name is Nick, as you all know, and this is the recap between the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. Let's just get right into things. Obviously, the biggest story from this game is Kirk Cousins. This was his first Monday Night Football win. It broke the streak of 9 consecutive losses. He went from 0-9, obviously, to 1-9 now, and he played a very great game. 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, then went off of somebody's hands that we'll talk about later, and also a 100.6 passer rating, giving him 3 games in a row with a 100-plus passer rating, and it really shows that he is an important piece of this offense, whether people want to accept it or not, and whether they want to hate on him or not. It was really crucial that Kirk was able to take a hold of this game and make sure that things stayed in hand for the most part because of the lack of production today from Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was, for the most part, essentially shut down by the Bears defense. Coming into this game in his career, he's averaged 28.7 rushing yards per game against the Bears, and damn did it seem close to being like that for the most part of the game. Dalvin ended up with 30 rushes for 96 yards, which is a very, very, very awful yards per carry average, but he did have a few nice runs of 12, 14, 15 yards. Had that 33-yard run erased by the Kyle Rudolph holding penalty on Khalil Mack. I personally want a quick talk about that. Is it just me, or was that not holding? And is it just me, or if there was any other defensive end in the league basically besides Khalil Mack, they probably wouldn't have gotten that call. I'm not saying there's a little foolish playing going around between Khalil Mack and the refs, but that one seemed a little bit questionable to me. But let's also remember that the Vikings got away with a shot to the head of Nick Foles on 3rd down in the 4th quarter that may have ended up in a little bit more happening on that drive, but things offset. It happens every game. Want a quick touch on the Kyle Rudolph fumble on the first drive of the game, and the very interesting stat that was his first career lost fumble in 137 games. And now obviously it sucked that it happened, but that's extremely impressive for a guy like him. Now, like I said earlier when we were talking about Kirk, Adam Thielen had a very, very strange game. Adam had 4 receptions for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns, with the one being this absolute beauty of a touchdown in the back corner of the end zone in the first quarter. It was absolutely amazing. I got super hyped, and aside from that, things were pretty abysmal from him, if I'm being honest. Adam had a number of important drops that were all pretty damn good throws. I saw some people saying, Kirk, you got to put it out in front of him, or yada yada yada, but they were right on him. It's not like they were behind. I mean, that's obviously a bad throw, but they were at Adam's chest. As we know, the interception went straight through his hands. He didn't catch it with his hands, he let it get to his body, and then it obviously popped out and flew into the Bears defender's hand. It was just a really weird game. Although he did give me a good amount of points in fantasy, I'm still a little worried, just a little bit. I don't think Adam is going to continue to do stuff like this, but all those drops and just the weird overall play from Adam just kind of it threw me off a little bit, alright? Let's also not forget the amazing play today of Justin Jefferson. 8 receptions for 135 yards, basically getting himself back into that Rookie of the Year conversation with guys like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. He is definitely leading the league in terms of rookies for receiving yards right now, and it's really great to see that this pick that is essentially the replacement for Stephon Diggs panning out so well, and I really love Justin, as you can tell. I'm kind of a big fan of the dude. He was also on that same fantasy team where I had Adam Thielen, and they almost won me that game. I don't know how many times we're going to have to address this, but the special teams of the Minnesota Vikings is not playing very well. The woes have continued from last week, as we know, the 2 blocked punts from last week against the Detroit Lions, and this week the second half began with Cordarrelle Patterson having a 104-yard kickoff return. It's kind of just like a punch in the gut to the Vikings, because obviously he did that for us for so many years, and he just turns around, and that was basically all that the Bears were able to do in terms of scoring. Their offense, aside from that Cordarrelle Patterson score, they obviously only scored 6 other points. Their offense didn't do anything today. It was also really weird. Austin Cutting had a very poor snap on the point after attempt after Adam's second touchdown. It was very strange, and obviously that play got completely blown up, and it could have cost us the game if the Bears were able to do something, drive down the field, get a score, because they could have easily kicked their own point after attempt, making it 20-19. Who knows what happens then? So Austin Cutting lucked out a little bit here, but I swear to God, Marwan Malouf really needs to get this special teams group together in every single phase, whether it be kickoff, kick return, whatever you want it to be, field goal kicking, whatever it is. He needs to sit down with basically everybody on special teams this week and figure out what is wrong and what is going on. And even on the kickoffs too, Dan Bailey, why would you kick it off to Cordarrelle Patterson on the first touchdown that he had? and 2, he kicked a bullet towards the end of the game on one of his kickoffs and kicked it right to Cordarrelle Patterson. He was on the one side of the field. Why didn't you just kick it to the other side? It's not that hard of a concept. I don't understand what's going on. Marwin, you got a little work to do. Now, like I said earlier, the Bears' offense was not able to do much, and Matt Nagy had recently given up the play calling duties and given them over to offensive coordinator Bill Lazor, and it didn't seem like he had a real good grasp of what to do. Obviously, the Bears were without David Montgomery, and they were using Cordarrelle Patterson a lot. Obviously, kick return, had him in some wildcat stuff, wide receiver, running back, all that stuff. He's a Swiss Army knife. It's freaking crazy what this guy is doing right now. But with the pieces that he had on offense, he should have understood that the run offense for Chicago was not going to work very well. It was doing okay for the first half or so, but after that, it was just a little weird. And I don't know if Matt Nagy is going to talk to Bill Lazor about this afterwards and maybe talk about getting play calling back. I don't think it's that simple, but it was really, really interesting to me to see how things panned out with the new play calling. But let's not forget that the Vikings defense really did step up this time around against, a pretty poor offense. A lot of guys had some pretty great games, and some of them a little more silent than others. Obviously, we know Harrison Smith had that interception in the first quarter, almost having the second, and also making that damn good play on that deep shot across the middle. That was a great play. Of course, Eric Wilson continues to be a great replacement for Anthony Barr, just flying all around the field, making plays, and it's just great to see him performing very well in the absence of Anthony Barr. And a couple guys that had slightly undercover games, DJ Wonnum played very well, had a few nice plays, and as well as Jeff Gladden. Although he didn't really come out towards the later part of the game, Jeff stepped up when he needed to, didn't give up many big plays. Granted, the defense didn't give up many big plays as a whole. I mean, the Bears had 150 or whatever yards of offense, and it was just all around great to see this defense, doing well against a team that they should do well against, that being one with a bad offense. And real quick before we end things off, there's obviously the worry right now of Nick Foles and his health. As we saw Fadi Odenigbo on that play towards the very end of the game, it didn't look super good. He obviously had a hold of Nick Foles and completely just ripped him down to the ground, falling on his right side. As I'm recording this, no word on what it could be, no word on his status, but at the moment, Mitchell Trubisky, not currently active, and if you don't have Nick Foles as well, that's not a very good situation to be in if you're Chicago. And especially if you don't have David Montgomery, let's just say it's great that they have a bye week coming up because they are really going to need it. They're pretty beat up on offense, and their defense as well. Akeem Hicks, after he came out with his hamstring injury, Dalvin Cook started to play, a fair bit better. Obviously nothing incredible that we were expecting, but it just seems like pieces that were necessary started falling, and it really hurt Chicago in the end. But again, we need to congratulate Kirk Cousins. This narrative is not necessarily over, but I mean, you can't call him winless on Monday Night Football. Sure, 1-9 isn't the best record in the world, but hey, it's better than 0-10, okay? And that is going to wrap up the recap between the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. The Vikings have now railed off 3 consecutive wins, all against divisional opponents, helping their record to get up to 4-5. The Bears, after starting 5-0, have not won a game since. The Vikings are now 1 game out of second place in the NFC North, and it's looking much more possible with the upcoming schedule that the Vikings can make a playoff push. I said this last video, I truly believe it, and you guys should too. And that's all I gotta say. Vikings 19, Chicago 13. Also, let's also get a big round of applause for the Vikings in general. They have not won in Chicago in forever. And now that's really going to end things off, I swear this time. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the button down below to subscribe. It really helps me out. And if you want to share the video, make sure you do that as well. No one's going to stop you. Make sure to give it to the crack dealer on the corner. You guys already know. My name is Nick, and I will see you guys in NFL Week 11 picks coming out on Wednesday. Adios.